Hey, this is René, welcome back to another video. And lately I was talking a lot about existing expert advisor and did reviews on this channel, but let's get back to basics and do some programming this time. So I thought about programming tutorials that I didn't do already on the channel and which is something new and might be useful to you. And a lot of people trade like these price action strategies, and they like to work with highs and lows and maybe even trend lines. So what I decided to do is to write a program together with you that automatically trails your stop loss levels for your trades at an existing trend line. So for example, here we have a setup that I want to explain. So first of all, you can see here I already put this trend line into the chart, connecting these two highs, and this could be the start of a new downtrend. So the idea is to follow this trend. It would be a long-term trend since we are working in the 1 hour time frame chart. As you can see, if I put the line here, it pretty much decreases, it would decrease the value of the stop loss when time goes on. And then we want to trail the stop loss for the currently open position here at the line here. And this is pretty much what we want to do. And if we change the line or if we add another line, we could also use this line. So we will make it so that we can use any line that we like to place into the chart. So let's get into the programming. So when we write a program in MetaTrader 5, we usually do this in the Meta Editor. You can find it clicking on Tools, MetaQuotes Language Editor. This will open the text editor pretty much, which also includes a compiler that can turn your text files into executable files for the MetaTrader 5. In this case, we want to create an expert advisor because we need to modify our positions, and then you usually create an expert advisor, which is a program that is running on a chart and can do trading operations. So in the upper left corner of your Meta Editor, you will find this new button. You click it, then you select expert advisor template, you click on next, you can add a name. And we can say, for example, Trendline Stop Manager. It doesn't really matter what what name you choose. It's just the name that is, which will be the name of your executable, but you can change it later. So you click on next, next, and finish, and this will create a brand new expert advisor for you. Let's first of all delete all these gray lines because they are just comments for the programmer and they do not affect the program at all. So once we deleted them, the source code is already a lot shorter. Also, I like to rearrange my brackets. So it is the style that I like to use when I write my programs. Then we have these three properties at the top of our program. Properties can have an impact on your program. In this case, these three properties are just information for the user of the program, so they do not affect the program and we can delete them. So what we have left is we have three system functions, which are predefined functions that you can use in any expert advisor. The onTick function is executed when the program is activated or initialized. The onDenit function is activated or called when the program is deinitialized or the program is deactivated. And the onTick function is called or executed for every single tick. So if we compile the program, clicking on this compile button, we can now already find this program in our MetaTrader. So if you go back to the MetaTrader, you can find in your navigator, if you do not see it, click on View Navigator. There you should find the program, and I do so. So there's the Trendline Stop Manager, and I can drag and drop it onto my chart here. And then I click on OK, and you can see if I activate the algo trading up here and also activate it in the in the program here, you can see the program is now active and running in the chart. Whenever you have a program running in a chart, it is visible in the upper right corner, and for every single tick, so for every single price movement that happens in this chart now, the onTick function for this specific expert advisor is called. So this is why in our source code, we will put all the code that we need here in this function. So first of all, what we're going to do is we have to find the trend lines in our chart. And there are several ways to do so. The easiest way is to choose a specific name for your trend line. So I can say, for example, this is the trend line will be named line 1. Doesn't really matter. Something like this. So what we can do now is we could create a input variable here at the very top of your program. You can write input string, and then we can say something like a line name. And then we can provide a default value, which might be line. And then we write a semicolon to end the line. So if we compile this, we now created a user input. This is because we wrote this input keyword in front of the variable declaration. The rest here is just the declaration of a new variable, which means this variable has the type string, which is any text value pretty much. And this is the name of the variable, which we use to access it. And then we say equals, and then there's a default value. And we end the line with a semicolon. So what this does is, if we have a look at our program again, so you can right click, then click properties of Trendline Stop Manager, and you will now find this inputs tab here. And you can see there's this variable which is named line name, because this is the name that we chose, obviously. And the default value is line. This is the default value that we chose. So this is how to create user inputs. And in this case, it is a text value. So the user is able to say he wants this to be the value in the variable. So now we have this line name variable. And you might think, why do we use this? And we can do so because now we can check if there is an object in the chart which has this specific name. So you can say if, then in round brackets you write object find, and we provide a chart ID which is 0 and a object name which is line name. And then we can check if this is greater -1. So what this does is we created this if statement, which means in our onTick function, which is executed with every single tick, we will now check, first of all, if there is a line or a object, pretty much, which has this specific name. So the onTick function, again, is executed with every single tick. So with every single tick, we will execute the source code in between of these curly brackets of the onTick function, because this is the body of the onTick function. And here we have this if control structure. A control structure is used to structure your code and to make it behave in a certain way that you like it to behave, pretty much. So we write if, just if, and this is a way to check a specific condition. So you write if, and then in round brackets, you can write a condition. A condition can be either true or false. In this case, we have, first of all, we have this function, which is a predefined function, and you can read about it in the documentation. So you can go to help, MQL5 reference, and if you do so, you can go to index, search for object find, if it is not pre-selected, and then you will see everything that you need to know about this function. So this function searches for an object with a specific name in a specific chart. So this function has two parameters which have to be provided as in round brackets after the function name, and then this function returns a value. This value is of type integer. Type integer means that it is any number pretty much. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And this is the number of the sub window. So we could say, for example, that we have a sub window here. So for example, if you have indicators on your chart, like an oscillator, like the RSI, it will create the sub window, and there could be a line in the sub window, a trend line. So if I create a trend line here, this trend line is now in sub window 1. So maybe we can even see it somewhere here. No, but this is sub window 1, and the main window is always sub window 0. So this is why we check delete indicator. This is why we check if the object find returns a value greater than -1. Or we could also check if it is 0. So we know it is in our main window where the price is displayed. So once we found the object, we can say, for example, something like found. And you should see that if we now have a look, this print function that I just wrote in the body of the if statement, this is only executed if this condition is true. So this is how you use a if statement. And in this case, I want to print something. I want to print found because we found this line. So with every single tick, we print found now, right? So if we have a look at our experts journal, we see that we do not really see anything. And this is because if we have a look at this line again, you will see that the name is line 1. So it's not line. So we will have to choose this name. So if we now say line 1, we are now searching for line 1. And if there's a new tick now, it says found. Because we found the object that has this specific name. And you can see all of the objects in your chart can be seen if you right click and then open the object list. So there are a lot of objects. And the way to find a specific object is using the object name, because the object name is always unique in a chart. So in this case, we are searching for the object name, line 1. So once we found our line, we now pretty much need the price of this line, right? So what we can do here is we can say object price, and we will create a double variable for this to store the object price in this variable. A double variable is any number pretty much that has a decimal point or can have a decimal point and digits after the decimal point. And we need this double variable because we will have prices stored in this variable. And prices usually have numbers after the decimal point. So what we do here is we say object get value by time. And if you have a look at the documentation again, you can see this returns the price for a specific time, for a specific object. And we can use this for object trendline objects. And this is why we want to use this function, because we have a trendline object. You can see there are several parameters that we will have to provide a value for, and then it returns a double value. And this is why we can store the return value of this function in our just created variable. So it now needs a chart ID. This chart ID is obviously 0 because we want to use the chart where our expert advisor is attached to always. And then the second parameter is the object name. And this is good because we have this name already stored in our line name variable. Then we have a date time value. And in this case, we will have to find the datetime value first. So obviously, we want to have the value for the current bar, right? And if we use our crosshair here, you can click here for crosshair. And you can see if you use your mouse and hover over the bars, you can see on the lower end of the chart, there's a time value. And this is the time value that we need pretty much. So the easiest way to get this, no, let's do something different. We could use this value, but we can also say we want to use the current time. And the easiest way to get the current time is to call the time current function. And this is a predefined function again. And this always returns the last known server time. So this will give us the server time pretty much. So we can now say we use this time here as a parameter, and then the last parameter is the line ID. This can be used if you have a object with multiple lines. In this case, we only have one line, so we can use the default value 0, which is already predefined, so we do not even have to provide this parameter. So once we did this, we can now print the time and the object price. So I want to show you that this will indeed give us the current time and the object price. So we can see the current time is here, 11:26 and some seconds. And you can see there is also this line price. And we should see that this is the price here. And yeah, I think if we compare the values, it should be really accurate, but yeah, it's not that easy to like hit the exact point here. But so now you can see we get this line value. So we already have the price. What we now only have to do now is we have to search for open positions, and then we have to modify them. So the easiest way to search for all the open positions is using a loop. So we can say for int I is equal to positions total, and I will explain this in a second. Then we check if I is greater or equal to 0, and then I say I minus minus. So this looks really confusing, and it is if you never worked with loops, but I will explain it to you. So we could have 2 or 3 sell positions here, right? And we might want to modify the stop loss for all of them. And we could also have a buy position. So let's go with this example. So we will have to loop through all these positions and check if we have to modify the stop loss, right? So the easiest way to do so is using this for loop, because a for loop can have a first initialization where we say we create a integer variable, which is just any number like 3, 2, 1, 0. And then we initialize this variable with a value, and the value is the return value of this position's total function. And this is again a new system function. We do not have to write it, we do not have to do anything, we can use it right away, and it will give us the number of open positions. So in this case, the number will be 3. Then we subtract 1 from this value, so we will have 2, and this is the value that we put into our variable I. So now I holds the value 2. Then we check the condition, the main condition of this for loop. So we check if I is greater or equal to 0. 2 is greater or equal to 0. So this is true. Whenever a condition is true, we learned this already for the if statement, we will enter the body of this control structure. The body is this. This is the body of the for loop. Body. So we will execute everything that is inside of this body. After we did this, we are not finished with this loop, because then we have this like operation that we do whenever we finished or we completed everything that is written inside of the body of the for loop. So we will decrease I by 1. This is the same as writing this. So we will now have 1 stored inside of our variable I. Then we check the condition again. 1 is still greater or equal to 0. So we will process the body again. We will subtract it by 1. 0 is still greater or equal to 0. So we will process the body again, subtract it by 1. Minus 1 is not greater or equal to 0. So we leave the loop. So this is how it works. So what we can do here is we can now say we want to have the position ticket of all the positions. So we can use another predefined function for this, which is position get ticket. And this needs a position index. And this is great because we can use our variable I for this purpose. So if we compile this and print the position ticket here, which is an unsigned long variable, which is similar to integer variables, but it can hold greater numbers. And unsigned just means that it is never negative. So if we print the position ticket, we will see that we always print like the position tickets of all the open positions. And this is because every position here has an index. This is index 0, this is 1, this is 2. And this is why we use the integer variable I with these values. First it's 2, then it's 1, then it's 0. This is how you can get the position tickets of all your open positions. And when you did this, you can also select positions. Positions select by ticket. This step is not needed. I know this, but I always like to do this because it kind of makes sense to me to select the position using a ticket. So this will select a position, and then you can use these functions pretty much, like position get symbol, position get integer, and position get string. You can read about them here if you click on these links. And these functions can be used to get specific properties from your position. For example, we can check now if position get integer, and then we can say position type if it's equal to position type by. And all of these things like the functions and the identifiers here, these identifiers, they are part of the MQL5 framework. So you can read about them in the reference. This is always working. You can read everything in the reference and you will understand everything. You do not have to know them all like from your mind. This comes with time. Do not stress yourself. It will come with time as soon as you get more convenient programming. You will remember these things, and it's no need to learn everything like step by step and read the documentation from A to Z. If you want a head start like with programming in MQL5, you can also check out the links below this video and you will find a complete course where I explain everything like in a really detailed way. But for this purpose, for this video, it is enough to like know that we can compare that we can check the position type using this formula. So what we do here is we have a if statement. We had a if statement before. I explained this already, so I will not explain it again. We are just checking a condition, and if it is true, we enter the body. Now we have a else if, which is pretty much a way to concatenate multiple if statements. After the body of a first if statement, you can write another else if, which means pretty much just if this condition is not true, we will check this condition. You can always do this if the conditions can never be true at the same time. And in this case, you can only have either a buy position or a sell position. Hope this makes sense. So what we do next is, we have this object price, and what we should do is we should round the object price. Because as you can see here, wait, let me show it to you again. Like where we print, we printed this before. Let me print this again. So we print object price, and then we print the object price again after we rounded it. So we say something like this, and you will see there's a difference. So the object price before the rounding, it has a lot of digits after the decimal point, and the rounded is limited to 5 digits after the decimal point. This is because we rounded it to a precision of the amount of digits for the current chart symbol. And since there are 5 digits after the decimal point, the rounded value now only has 5 digits after the decimal point. This is important because we will later on use this value as a stop loss for our trades, and we cannot have a value that is not a valid stop loss. So you will have to round your value here, and you can do this by using the normalized double function, which requires the value that you want to round as a first parameter, and as a second parameter it requires the amount of digits that you want to have after the decimal point. So once we did this, now we can now check if this object price, if it is greater than the position stop loss, right? Because in this case, we know that we found a better stop loss pretty much. So what we can do here is we can say double a position stop loss like this, and we can say position get double to get a double value for our selected position, and then we can say position SL. And we will already do this for the TP, position get double, because we will need it later on. So this is a way to get the TP and SL value for currently selected positions. So we can now check if this object price is greater than the current position stop loss. And in this case, we want to modify by position stop loss. Also, we do the same or a similar thing with the sell positions. Here we check if the object price is below the position stop loss. Also, if there is no stop loss, okay, we will see this error later on, but there's still one problem with sell positions, but we will see this. So now we want to modify sell positions, right? So whenever we want to modify positions, the easiest way to do so is to use a predefined class, which is the ctrade class. You can use this by including another file. So just write at the very top of your program, write this hashtag include, and then in these spiky brackets, which are just a smaller and a greater sign, you write trade/trade.mqh, just like I did here. No semicolon at the end of the line. Then we compile, and you can see there it changed something here in the toolbox. So when we do not have this line and compile, we only compile one file, which is our file that we are modifying here. When we add this include line, you can see we are compiling a lot of files. And this is because we now have access to many other files that we include with this operation. If you want to learn more about it, check out the link below this video. Then we can now create a trade object of type ctrade. This is only possible if we include the ctrade class before or this file. So make sure that you do not forget this. What is now really cool is we can use this trade object that we just created to modify positions. So we can say if trade position modify like this. So you write trade, which is the name of our object variable, this point operator, and then we can choose any function of the ctrade class that we have access to now. So we say position modify, and this function does what the name says. It modifies a open position. So we have 3 parameters that we can provide here. The first one is the ticket, and we have this stored in our position ticket variable. The second one is the SL, and we will use the object price now here as a new SL. And the third one is the position take profit, and this is why I generated this position TP variable, because we do not want to change the TP, so we can use the old TP. Then close the brackets for the if statement and for the position modify function, and then we can say something like modified position SL or SL for position number, position ticket. So this is a way of keeping like track of the operations that your program does. So I like to add some print statements if I modify my positions using a expert advisor. So what I can do now is I can select these 3 lines, I copy them, and I paste them here for the buy side where we have buy positions. So in this case, we also modify the position and everything is the same. So if I compile this, we can see now that it tries to modify the open position. So it tries to modify the position that has 316 in the end, which is our buy position. And this is not really working because the problem here is that the object price is greater than the position stop loss, but the position stop loss is currently 0 because there is no stop loss. So we will have to check one more thing. We will also have to check if the price of the new SL is below the current bid price. So to do this, we first of all have to create a bid and ask variable, and we can do this here. So we say symbol info double, which can give us a lot of information from a specific symbol. So we can get double information using this predefined function, and then we provide a symbol as a first parameter, and as a second parameter we provide a identifier that says what specific property of this symbol we want to get. And by using this underscore symbol variable, you can always have access to the current chart symbol. So this just holds a string value, which is the current chart symbol. So in this case, so in this case it would be euro US dollar. So this is a way to get the bid and ask price for the current chart symbol. And we can now check before we modify the stop loss of the buy position. We want to check if the object price is below the current bid price, because only then we want to modify. And for sell positions, we want to check if the object price is above the current ask price. So then we know that we can open or we can modify the stop loss. So if we compile this, the error message should no longer be produced. So let me clear this. You can see no error messages. Still, we do not see a modification of the stop loss for the sell positions, and this is easily fixed. It is the same problem pretty much. The position has no SL right now, so it is 0. And here we are checking if the object price is smaller than the position SL, which is 0. So obviously this will always be false. So you have to check if the object price is smaller than the position stop loss, or, and this 2 of these, this is a operator which means or. So either this has to be true or the second condition here. And the second condition is position stop loss is equal to 0. So if the position stop loss is 0, we still want to modify the stop loss. So if we compile this now, we should see both of these sell positions now have a stop loss, and the stop loss is exactly at the value of this trend line. So in the journal, we also see the stop loss is modified, and in the experts tab, there's this print statement which says that the position for the position stop loss here is modified. So this is it. We could also add another trend line here for, whoa, that's not a trend line. We could also add another trend line for our buy position, but the problem is still nothing is modified, and we would have to choose like a name which is line 1, but still nothing is modified because we cannot choose the name line 1 because it's already the line, the name of this line. So what we would have to do in this case is we would have to open another chart, or we could do several things. We could, like, the easiest thing to do is to open another chart, Euro US dollar, new chart window, and in this chart we do not see the line 1, so we can create another line here. We could name it line 1 again now because this is another chart, obviously. So in this chart it is okay to choose the name line 1, and then we can run the program on this chart also. So you can run Expert Advisor on multiple charts. So if I say line 1, the stop loss of this buy position is now modified and is now at this line. So now you can see we have these two Expert Advisor. And you might say this is really ugly, I want everything in one Expert Advisor. Another thing you could do is you could create another input variable which says name line buy or a name line sell, and you could have you could check like what specific line you found here, or you could copy this code and then do separate operations for buy and sell positions. This is something you might want to do on your own. It would be a great project to learn something. So if you're interested, feel free to do this. Also, these on init and on dinit functions, we do not use them. So we could also delete them because we are not using them. So let me show you the source code again now that I used to trail the stop loss on the trend lines. So let me just show you the first part, and here you can see the rest of the source code. So just copy everything. Do not forget like the brackets. If you open a bracket, you always need a closing bracket. This is why I move my code to the right always if I have control structures. So it's really easy to keep track like of all the brackets. And make sure you do not forget like a semicolon, because then you will need some time to debug your program. But this is it. This is how you can trail your stop loss using trend lines. Hope you like this short tutorial. And again, if you want to learn more, check out the link below this video. There's a complete course. And let me know in the comment section if you like this tutorial and what I can show you next on this channel. Thanks for watching. And as always, good trades. Have a good time. Bye-bye.